And we're back with another episode of the Dead Air podcast. Number 24 with me and Blank back in the fake building. It's not a real building, Blank, because we're online. It's a podcast.
I mean, I'm in a real building right now.
You are in a real building right now.
This
but
is my home.
They're watching us in a fake building.
Yeah,
a building of our own creation.
Yeah, we've locked ourselves in time and history. That is a weird thing, you know? You know, we're on YouTube, you know, in that small box. Like, I will forever be there saying this sentence.
It's true.
For the rest of the foreseeable future, until the internet dies. I mean, there is the theory that the internet is already dead.
That is a thing, yeah. It's just populated with bots.
Yeah, 50,
but actually,
what is it?
Mate, that's just my Deadlock matchmaking games.
Nah. 58% of them, every time, all the time. And it is true because, you know, matchmaking is a little bit sucky. And, you know, one of the topics I wanted to go over today was probably the amount of posts that have currently been coming through that people saying they can't derank. Like, it's very sad seeing these things happen so frequently. And we're getting more and more of these posts on Twitter, on Reddit, people saying that they can't derank down from Oracle, so they're having the tough time. And I think that sort of comes with the player count right now. But I do think it needs to be a little bit more malleable. I think you could have more reasonable games if those ranks went down. And as I explained to you the other day, I think that a lot of it has to do with decay.
Yeah, I mean, it's weird, right? Because I think the thing is, you have kind of the system in Counter-Strike, at least, where I think it's like if you don't play for a month or maybe a little bit longer than that, obviously you lose your rank. You have to win a game to get your rank back. And then with that, it can be a bit hit or miss if that's going to plummet you back down massively or if that's going to lift you up. I know when Premiere first came out, there was a weird period where basically, because so many players played initially, the floor was so low that there was loads of room in the upper ranks. So people were actively not playing for 1 month. They'd play a single game, win a game, and then get 16k, and it'd bump them up just like way higher than they should have been, purely based on that, which I think obviously we spoke about before, where I feel like Deadlock probably has the same issue, where Valve's matchmaking, the way they like doing it is generally gating it with you have X many slots in each rank, and obviously they have to be populated or empty for you to progress, which I think is probably contributing to this now, where you've got everyone playing ranked rather than the choice of it, so those slots are probably more arbitrary than it's ever been, and it does feel weird. Obviously, you know, we've got friends where it's a completely different scope. If some people have issues where they just get down ranked no matter what they do, even if they're winning games, or you could win 5 games and the bar never moves. It feels like the ranks are very sticky. That's how I'd summarize Deadlock right now. It's very sticky. Wherever you are is kind of where you are.
Yeah, we got the super glue ranking system. I mean, it's super glue Oracle Archon lobbies at the moment where you just cannot get out of them. And it's tough, man. It is very, very tough. And I do feel bad for the people who are in that situation, because it must also feel horrible coming to the conclusion. It's like, I'm not actually Oracle. I don't think I should be here. And, you know, props to anyone who's able to come to that conclusion as well. I've still not come to it. I probably should have my moment of, I don't deserve to be in Phantom anymore. I need to rank down. But I'm still holding on. I'm holding on to that super glue moment. But yeah, I think for a lot of people, it is a bit of a struggle. And I think they'd rather play in Emissary, Arcanist lobbies, where it's a little bit easier to learn the game. Because I don't think you learn much getting trampled on, which is what certainly happens. Because I think that's what a lot of my games devolve into, is either my team gets trampled on or the enemy team gets trampled on. And I think a lot of it is to do with ranked and not with gameplay, because I think gameplay right now is very crisp, very clean. I think overall, if you get an evenly ranked match going, and those matches go like 40 minutes, it feels like a really, really fun and good game where the comebacks are real. You know, have those moments where it's the down periods and you're up again and it feels so good. But yeah, a lot of those games, you're just not having that because it's so imbalanced right now. Yeah. It's sad, man. It is sad.
It is a bit rough, But I think it's worse as well for like new player onboarding. I think we were talking about this before. I was saying it feels weird, especially, I kind of get it now. We're obviously, right, like we're in that interim state where the game's kind of floating around. It's being developed. It's not fully out. The ranks were always put in just to appease people. They had that couple months. We got the data from that. Now we've just kept them in so people have badges and kind of see where they are. But I think it's made it more arbitrary, at least for new player onboarding, where I feel like you get those games sometimes where you can see someone's come back, even returning players, right? They're back.
Yeah, dude, this is a good
point.
I'm
playing a guy. I've not played the game for 2 months. Maps changed, items have changed, all your
Please
favorite
go easy on
heroes
me.
are slightly different. But they're in there, right? They're thrown back in at the deep end and wondering, oh, why is everyone angry at me? They don't know what they're supposed to be doing. And it's rough because I think that's one of those where you kind of need a bit of a safety net of new players, first 10 games, say. You only play against fresh accounts, throw them in. Even hell, make it mandatory that your first 2 games are 6 players versus 6 bots. I know that sounds like silly for us, where it's like, oh, we played the game for a year. But I think for new players or generally returning players, a way to ease back in and not get bodied on your first outing. Because I think you probably do lose a percentage of people that come in, get bodied, and they're like, oh, I'm just not going to play. This game's too hard.
Yeah, I'm giving up on this. There's a point where, this happens in a lot of MMOs as well, where they'll do this. And I don't think it's a bad idea either for Valve to kind of implement it right now. It could be as simple as just adding a small JPEG, which is a case of having a little, the green sprout from, Final Fantasy, from RuneScape, that kind of thing, where it shows that you are a returning player, you haven't played for a month. And it's just, it goes on the leaderboard, it's next to your name. And that stays for like maybe a week or 2, and people know that, hey, this guy's only just come back. He's been away for a month, probably or longer. He doesn't really know what's going on. So I understand that I probably shouldn't get too mad at him. Maybe having the green sprout status as well locks your rank down by 2. Yeah, in that period. So say you come back, the matchmaking, we know it kind of sucks. You're at Oracle. Maybe it just bumps you down for the sake of the game, the matchmaking, 2 ranks below, just for those 2 weeks until you get back into the swing of things.
Yeah, do it with like hidden MMR, just as a way to kind of pipe you back in and then see how you perform, you work your way back up. I think it's some combination of this or some sort of formula that they'll cook up, but I think there needs to be something like that, because it's rough out there sometimes. And you see... Man, each major patch as well, I think that's where it's at its utmost, right? When it's just like, that's when it goes crazy, because we get kind of double the player base for that period. So it's all so skewed, because the game doesn't quite know where anyone's meant to be. I think obviously we spoke about this before though, where I think innately the problem is, and the rise of like the bad matchmaking threads and problems with that was after we killed off rank. That was after kind of ranked became the global mode. But in reality, it shouldn't work that way, because it's like, as much as you're being displayed a badge and a skill group, it should still be using the matchmaking formula to just find, this is the best close game I can find. But I suppose if it is the nature of, what we were saying, where it's like the ranks are a bit sticky, it's a bit more generous, it kind of doesn't matter if the game thinks it's a fair matchup, because in reality, the way it's basing it, the MMR, isn't actually translating to player skill or understanding of what's going on.
Yeah, I will say for Valve, this is probably a really tough problem to solve, though, overall, because I think you're right, where, we have, I would say, and let me know if I'm wrong in the comments, potentially, I would say we have around about 12k consistent players.
The dedicated audience always there,
I would say it's 12k players who are always there, always online. Well, hopefully not all the time. We get some sleep here and there. But those are the people that stick it throughout most patches. And then we'll have people who return. And I have nothing against the returning players, because I think that's very good. But I think Valve is in an awkward situation, or not even awkward, just a complex situation, where the way that they're releasing this game, they need to balance it, the matchmaker at least, Jacky, around the fact that people are going to come back for roughly a month or 2 after the patch drops and then leave. And then they'll likely come back again. It's very similar to the way I think FF14 was done, where the developer was like, play our most recent patch and then go away. And then you can come back again. But that doesn't have the added benefit of you're always going against other players. So you have to relearn everything, or it's not very fun. I think that's the problem that they're running into right now, is that they've got to understand that there is 12,000 players who are always going to be here, but you also need to absolutely accommodate those 8k, 9k or so players that are going to come back, and they're not going to stick around, and that's fair enough because the game is not out yet.
Yeah, I think as well, that's the problem, where you've got to come up with solutions for something that you're going to basically scrap in a couple months' time anyway, right? Because obviously, long-term goal is game comes July. Game comes out, you drop it like any Valve product does. It turns to gold instantly. The minute that's on the Steam banner, even all they'd have to do is literally Steam banner. You've got 300,000 people, I think it is, like the 3rd most wishlisted now, where some other games have kind of gone up. So I think like GTA or Silk Song.
Let's have a look.
Like, but it's still an unbelievable amount of people. It's like nearly 500,000 wish listed, which is big numbers. That's stonks.
289,000. Yeah,
there you go.
Lot. Number 3.
So it's a large amount of players that you know are going to have that initial rush of, oh, game's out, I'm in. Nevertheless, you add on then as well all the big streamers that obviously are then going to be back to blasting the game. Because you remember that kind of week where we went open at first, all eyes were on Deadlock because everyone's playing it. But a lot of them just kind of went, I'm going to come back to this when it's done. Because, of course, that's when it's more lucrative. If you're a streamer or whatever, like it's going to make you more money streaming it because it's the hot new big thing, which is going to be even more players compound on top. So the problem is basically it will solve itself with time when the game comes out, because then there's going to be but that's the issue, right? It's like we kind of need to fix it now for the dedicated audience that's still in to give them a better experience. But I suppose it is one of those in Valve's mind where it's just like, is it worth the time of coming up with a solution for a problem that won't really be a problem? Oh my god, what's happening?
Well, that is a problem, right? That is what's going on.
I don't know.
The Valve's DDoSing the server on your account. Stop talking about it. July beta is not real. It's not real.
Yoshi's taken me out. Hang on, I'll plug him back in. He has taken you
out. He's got you just like he got Deathy.
Oh no, it's fully gone. All right, hang on. Let me fix him. Right, I think we're back. That's enough talk about the matchmaking. Yoshi's been round, snuck in. He's broke the camera. Yeah. He's done me in. But yeah, dude, I think generally it is one of those where it will be solved with time. It's just it's a weird issue right now. But I think that's also the nature of like Deadlock as a game is bizarre in the sense that, you don't get anything like this where it's such a kind of polished product being actively developed over it's been like a year now in the hands of the public. Like we were saying this before, right, where it's like kind of the idea of a beta or an alpha is almost a free demo to get players in. That's kind of like what you do with Call of Duties and stuff now, where they're like, oh, try the open beta weekend. But they're never going to change anything based on feedback. It's purely just, here's an almost finished build of the game with less maps. Good luck. We know you're now going to buy the game if you weren't already. You know?
Enjoy. I'll do fair that there's stuff like a lot of the complaints Shroud has had about the game way back when. A lot of people were just like throwing around over on Twitter. Most social media is just saying that like he really hates Bebop and there are a lot of mechanics in the game CC wise that he really enjoy. A lot of those I would say are now fully fixed. It's a case of between now and then there's been a huge amount of changes. So I think that it's a lot. I think a lot of people do like the idea of opening it up and dropping that play button. I think the right idea right now is just to ride this out until it's ready for a beta, where everything can be fixed. So a lot of that initial perception of the game, I think there are going to be some amazing videos out there, potentially even on Twitter, where it will just show the difference between, what happened right at the start of the alpha compared to what it looks like now in beta, because the difference is going to be stark, dude. It's going to be stark.
Oh yeah.
And, I mean, this is the big thing as well that we can talk about right now is that just there's huge amount of map changes. I know that we put out a before and after over on Reddit, which people seem to absolutely adore. They really love those. And again, it's very important to take a look at them, because I think if you go back and look at all those that you've done, Jacky, over the year, it's like there's some crazy changes come through. Though, speaking of map changes, I think a lot of people right now are a bit concerned about how the map feels quite cramped. Mm-hmm. I would disagree with that notion. I think when I originally played the 3 map, I thought it was cramped back then as well. But I do think that the more I've played it, the more I'm like, I think it does need more cover. I think it needs more areas where you can outplay around, and it's not just a full-on brawl in just open areas. I think that cramped nature goes away after a little while. I will agree that there are some areas on the map where I'm like, I do feel slightly claustrophobic. I would like them to be opened up, but I would not say that these new buildings being added in is exacerbated it at all.
No, I think again as well, it's almost as if you kind of have this map where it is very blocked out, and I think a lot of that contributes to the idea of, like, you can see the way they've sort of laid out the map. There's rooms for buildings that currently don't have interiors to be given interiors, to be incorporated into the map.
At the alligator.
And they've been doing that, right? Where they're working that in. Like, we've got more verticality back. They've opened up the skybox. given you more rooftop access, the bridges come in. It feels like a lot of it gets fixed with time. And already the fact they're doing an art pass on interiors for buildings makes you think they're probably working that way. You know, you can open up more buildings. Why would they make the interior assets if they're not going to use them?
Exactly.
Yeah, I think in general, though, I've seen that sort of feeling where it's like, oh, it is a bit cramped. But as soon as you get used to it, I think that's the difference, is it's just there is a flow to the new map. It's, we've done it again. We're back in for the flicker. It's almost as if like you do just have to work around what's been given to you with the tools, right? Like bounce pads are huge for rotations. That opens up so much more elevation. And that's where it doesn't feel as cramped because you've got those wide open spaces to launch around the map, to use those areas to your advantage. I think so much of it just clicks after a little bit of playtime. You figure out the routes, you figure out the way it all works. But I will agree, I think it's now positive at least that we're seeing more map refinements just based on adding cover. Because I think sometimes they forget they've made a shooter and you have vast lines of sight from one side of the map to the other. You've got nowhere to peek, no right eye faces. You can't try and duck in. So these base walls and even, I'd say, rotate the news stand, have it sideways, because right now you kind of get stuck on it and you can fight from it, but it's a bit awkward. It's good they're adding those things. Like the fact you've actually got cover to play around and you can see tangibly, hold by the walker, fall back to the newsstand, break line of sight on the statues, I'm in base. You have a way to try and avoid Wraith cards, avoid lockdown, whereas before, you're just exposed.
Hey man, this is the big thing, is that I think before, you look at a lot of these open areas and you think to yourself, we desperately need more heroes in this game. Like, we have very limited. Technically, right now it's got more than most hero shooters, but as a MOBA, it does need a lot more heroes thrown in there. But as we do throw more heroes, there are going to be more skill shot based heroes. 100%, they're going to come, maybe in 2 years' time or in a year's time. They'll appear at some point. We'll get more of them. And I think having those big open areas is just not healthy when you start having to face off against those characters. We need more cover to work around. And again, there is subtle changes where you just don't realize how important they are. For instance, you talk about interior and how we're adding more stuff in there. It's important now to understand that you can wall jump more than once quite easily. And that's really important in terms of being able to get around those areas. There's jump pads where if you hit a triple wall jump, you get across the map very, very quickly. And I think that I like the idea that they're leaning into movement a lot more, because it's important. It's an important part of the game. I mean, you're doing it all the time. Come on. But that skillful side of the movement, that's the part of the game that I really enjoy. Part of my ADHD brain, where I'm like, I'm not jiggling my leg anymore because I'm wall jumping all the time instead.
My camera's gone. What's he doing? Why is it just fully broken? That's awful. Good. Okay, let's fix this.
You fix it again?
Yeah, we'll find a way. See, if you're watching this in audio only, you've probably avoided potentially having a seizure from the camera. So it was probably a good move. But apologies to the video viewers. We'll fix this in the edit. I'll put like a picture of a cat over me whilst it flickers or something. But I think generally, in terms of the changes they've made, it's good additions. We needed more cover. We needed more to play around. And I think they're going about it in the right way where it fits as well. Like the base walls, really glad they added those. It actually gives you a reason to take fights right-hand side from the walls. And I think we were trending in this direction where all the base changes were good in terms of gameplay to actually get in, finish off the base, make it a bit more comfortable. Like you're fighting shrines from a far better distance. You knew we're in the base. It's time to smash stuff to bits. But still getting over that hump of being able to engage in the fight, of like stepping past, the safety net of, we're within the Guardians now. Like, the base Guardians probably shouldn't be here.
We're in the thick of it.
Psychologically, having the walls there does sort of draw a line of like, look, you've really got to step in to take these fights versus the Guardians. Like, you actually have to commit to it. But generally, I think that's better. Like the map changes they've made, even the small ones we've had sprinkled in with the hotfix and then the really big hotfix that came out a couple of days ago. It's good. Like, no complaints from me. I think it's stuff that you can improve on. You can see it's a gameplay first approach as well, where like the newsstand, obviously just an asset they've thrown that in as some kind of cover. We can run with that. You give some feedback on that. You could make that into a far better structure that feels a bit more smooth. Because I think the issue is it is a bit awkward where it's kind of, you've got the open arch, but it blocks so much room and you back into it. Whereas if it was kind of open the other way, you could peek to fight towards the walker like they want you to have cover from, but still safely roll through it to get back.
Yeah, I think there's always those issues where you're adding new bits of architecture to the map. I remember when three lane came in, and I was backing up into walls all the time just because I didn't really know where stuff was. And I'm trying to figure out for myself at least whether this is a case of it's bad architecture and it needs moving, or is that I just haven't got used to it yet. Because it is kind of like when these new patches come through, because they're changing the game so much, is sort of like waking up and eating with a slightly differently shaped fork sometimes, which is
got
awkward.
a trident.
Yeah, you're like, well, I've not really used this, but I've used something similar.
I think I know how this works.
So figuring out, exactly. That's kind of what the phase I'm in right now, because it was pretty recent, where I'm figuring out, do I like it? Do I not like it? Is it just a case that I don't really get it right now?
I think it's just the conjunction, though, of how you have huge structure into small box with pointy bit of cardboard into statue. And I think it wouldn't feel as bad if, weirdly, the thing behind it, the kind of like AC unit with a little bit of cover on it, was moved. Because I think that's what most people are backing into, because they're kind of so tunnel visioned on this is the main bit of cover now, you forget. And with the camera angle in Deadlock, it's not as forgiving with what's behind you. You have very restricted vision anywhere other than obviously cone straight forward. So I think for stuff like that, it's kind of rough, where unless you're used to it, you might back into it. And those mid fights have been so common, where obviously it is just like hold S, take the fight, slowly back away. It probably makes sense why people are getting caught on it, and it's like, oh, this feels a bit weird. But for the sake of cover, it's good.
Yeah, there's a lot of foot traffic in that location, and you know, areas it's a little bit more forgivable to be like, maybe I just need to learn the map there. It's like, that's fairly important, that when you're backpedaling, you don't find yourself with you back against the wall, which is never fun. There's definitely some interesting bugs as well fixed this patch, where we're fixing a bug where Urn can be invisibly carried on the hero by throwing in certain areas like air vents. So, you know, mad props to the people figuring out these bugs at the end of the day, because that's an insane one that I would imagine has been in for a little while. And
it's
also,
so in depth as well, how deep that one went, where it was like you had to throw the urn into the air vent, but then it would bug, it would still be on you, but invisible. So you still had priority to shoot, do everything else. And then I think basically it was a cycle of every 39 seconds, the game would remember that you had urn and were able to drop it. So you had to wait for each timing window. So you'd have people that would do the bug, farm, wait 39 seconds for the right timing, then deliver the urn. And obviously on the minimap, you just see nothing. So you'd be like, how has he done this? But I'm convinced we've had it in a couple of our games, because there was weird times where it would just be like, someone's got the urn. How? And you'd have no idea. You wouldn't see him on the map. It would just be deposited.
Maybe that's what's on your screen right now. It's an invisible urn.
The urn.
It's the invisible urn.
I don't know what's wrong with the camera.
No, it's so
just
good.
broken.
It's so good. It's dying. It's not having a good time. I think maybe it just needs a little bit of bedtime tonight. Maybe it'll be better.
Yeah, maybe it's one of those. Go away for Finland for a few days. Camera's broken.
Gonna keep going, or
I don't know. I'm scared it's gonna break. I'm trying to think what I can do. I could switch the USB that it's in. I don't know if it's that. But yeah, urn bug. That was a weird one. That was a weird one. I didn't know about all these other things, but yeah, I think you're right. It might have happened in our games, because it's one of those things where you actually don't know it's happening. Also, you know, tech manipulation of the urn is insane, by the way. I can't believe that was happening. I mean, to be fair, you know, when Ivy could teleport people across the map, when you could hook people through the teleporter as well, with the urn, everyone was doing it then. So, you know, this is just the evolved situation where Valve is just constantly finding those people who are desperate to break the urn. You know, respect, man. You've got to earn those souls, but for how long? Now you've got to actually figure out the game. Also, the most bizarre thing is how many of those fixes that was slipped inside of this patch, where it was like there was so much stuff that I think even just confused me that it was an issue. The other big one was the fix neutrals near the base gaining near base trooper resist. The fact that obviously you probably got, I can only imagine it was a 7 main who's there throwing out balls and just going, this is not killing them. It used to kill
Not
them.
fast. Yeah.
Yeah, but it is mental because obviously, if that's affecting, most likely it was probably the close camp, so the tier two in the warehouse, which it can also further accentuate probably why it took so long for anyone to realize. Because that's like 2.5, 3 weeks now since we got the trooper resist added. So they've been secretly buffed and just way harder to kill.
I mean, I have noticed that. To be fair, there was a couple of times where I'm like, I'm punching these guys and they're just not dying. They're just not dying. Like, what's going on here? So that was a curious one. I mean, I wonder what else it was affecting. You know, did it affect turrets, perchance? Who knows?
True, if they're marked as neutrals,
Yeah, like we'll have to figure that out. But it doesn't say anything about it in here. Might have just been shadow fixed. Who knows? But yeah, a lot of item changes as well. And you know what's cool? These do feel like the 2-week patch notes that we had from before. They were just going through and just changing a lot of stuff. And I do like it. I really do like it. I mean, it looks like they're really trying to hammer down on the item changes and get them fixed. But again, I do think that this kind of comes with the territory that they understand the game that they're making a little bit more now, which is pretty awesome.
No, I think definitely you can see a lot of it in the DNA of these again, where it feels like we're getting some of that back. Where obviously I think they took time for themselves, right? Where start of the year they were saying, look, we're going to slow down in terms of pumping out the quantity of patches, but there'll be far more quality. And they have been. Like the major updates we've got, right, in terms of sort of the big pillars of Deadlock, you had the huge major map rework. They've kind of come to a conclusion of this is what they want it to be. Now it's just refinement. Then we got the itemization update. Similar story now where it's like each patch, it's just refining that and making it better. But at base, it's infinitely better than it's ever been. But yeah, like you say, we're getting these large patches again. Like this was marked as a hotfix. And it was huge, you know, like you've got sort of changes for a vast array of heroes, all the item tweaks, and then even a couple bits of map changes that were sprinkled in there alongside weird bugs. I think the only real gameplay change was also the breakables, which have been rescaled. For a smoother breakdown, if you're kind of looking at the numbers and you were like 28.5 plus 2 minutes, what does that mean? I think generally it's easily explained as less at the beginning, more towards the end.
Yeah, pretty much. It's quite a chunky change, to be honest with you. Because it went from 2.35, so you're getting a 0.2 more souls. I mean, when I initially looked at this, I was like, not like this, Val. This is not how I wanted to fix it. Because overall, I've been pretty displeased with how boxes have been working recently and how I like the fact that there's something other to do in the lane. When you get to 2 minutes, you deal with the tier 1 camp, you try and steal the tier 1 camp, you try and take the boxes on the side, or you try and invade their like mega box spawns. That's something fun. That's it's cool to do. But I don't think it should matter that much at minute 2. It should be like a small advantage that you can get in lane, but I don't think it should be like lane defining. Like that's crazy. But yeah, I did look at this and I was like, so even more souls later on as well, which would it completely invalidates like what's it called, neutrals. But I did take another look here and I think I was overreacting. It's like 0.225, right? So I think that overall that's not a huge amount, and they actually reduced it by 5.5 total right at the start. So it's an extra 2 minutes before you start seeing like something similar-ish starting to come through, which I think's nice, especially for the laning phase, and that's what they were really wanting to deal with first. But to me, it feels more band-aidy than anything. Yeah, I still think the boxes need to be changed. I can't remember who it was, but some absolute egghead on our last last podcast said something about boxes should drop bounties and have a bounty effect where all the souls that you grab, once you get a kill, then you gain those souls, and it's like separate to unsecured.
Almost like a contract to be rewarded for it, so you can get the souls, but you still have to play the game. Yeah, that could be interesting.
Exactly. I thought that was a very good avenue to go down. I don't think it fixes everything, but I think it's very interesting in terms of like a bounty system almost, that you do the side objectives, but the side objectives still require, at the end of the day, to come together and have a good old rumble in mid.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest bit about it, is I think finding a way to encourage players to play the core elements of Deadlock whilst rewarding them, obviously, with these bits, right? You kind of need it all to come together, where it feels like they're very isolated things, and it's hard to convince people to do it. then you run into the downside as well, where it's like you've got one guy, 50k, still doing all those things, but never partaking in the fight. And it's just like you single-handedly, with your ult Hayes, who's got 80k souls in the bank, could win us this game. But they're not, because they're so wrapped up in the like, no, well, for me, I need to just maximize this. If my SPM goes down, I'm not gaining souls, then suddenly someone else is going to overtake me. But they're not thinking about when the right moments are to actually push the initiative. I think that inherently is a big problem right now of convincing players, though, when to do what and why.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think, to be honest with you, like, Deadlock's always been a little bit... I won't say wishy-washy about it, but a little bit, right? They've always been a little bit vague about what you should be doing at certain times because, like League, like Dota, there is very clear moments in the game of this is spawned, Roshan spawned, you've got Dragon spawn at 15 minutes in League, and it's like, we go do that now. And I think that's the cool thing about Deadlock, is that there is absolutely no guiding light to you in the game where it's like, at this minute, you go do this and you contest as a team, and that is something that you should be doing. I do think, though, like in a MOBA like this, and most MOBAs in general, I think those moments are, they do make the games a little bit more repetitive and static in their procedure. I do think players need that. I think players do need that case of, it's 15 minutes, we should be gearing up to go contest this thing. And I think it is important. But I also can completely see the other side of the argument. People kind of like that fact that you kind of have to develop your own game flow to the match.
Well, I think the way you fix that, though, then, is you just take the idea of, say, like random events where effectively there's a blood moon. When it's a blood moon, you get the next 5 minutes, all the jungle camps take double damage, output double damage, but reward double the souls. Yeah. So in terms of the damage dealt and damage received, it speeds up you killing them, but you're still going to take the equal amount of damage as you would before, right? But you're getting double that bounty. So suddenly everyone's thinking, oh, go clear all the jungle camps. So it teaches even newer players, oh, when this red thing's in the sky, I should get the jungle camp. So you learn jungle camps are part of the game. Similarly with boxes, right? You do it where, like, say there's a spill of boxes at middle, like a truck drops a load of boxes out the back. Boxes award double souls in that period of time. Suddenly you want to clear as many of the boxes as you can. Inherently just teaches players, oh, okay. You do the same thing with kills, where you just have a period where fighting is more encouraged, and you have those random events as almost little bits of spice you throw in that would teach everyone the mechanics.
I think that it's a good concept to have, and I think it's something that they absolutely should push, because I think I agree that, like, those random events are fun in the sense of for Deadlock. I do like its case of the flow is decided by the players, but it does need a little bit of something where you need to be like, okay, I should be doing this now because this has happened. And I think random events could be very, very healthy, but Deadlock, especially if not every random event happens every game.
Yeah, say you just have options where it could,
Yeah, you have. So maybe you play this game, it's like, I've seen one of the 7 different events that happened, and we finished about 30 minutes. We didn't get the chance to see another one. But that event actually defined, like, quite a bit of the match and kind of changed things up. So you have to learn those as well. And, it would change the way drafting worked, because when that does come around, because you kind of have to play around for, well, this character's good against this, but what if this event happens? We kind of need to shore up all our bases. I think it's cool. I think it's a cool idea.
Yeah. I think it's something that it could teach. Yeah, I know, mate. It could help teach you the game in a way that doesn't feel like you're being taught the game, which I think would generally be rewarding. So it's more fun for players that obviously are at the top end. You know what you're doing, but now you just put those skills into, like you say, the decision-making of, am I going to get our own and take our own boxes, or do I break theirs? Do I run the risk of going in for an invade there? And that's where invading the jungle would feel more fun and more rewarding, in a way where it's like, oh, look at the huge amount of souls I've got from this. We've massively denied them as well, because we got most of the camps. Yeah. And you'd want to fight over it, where it wouldn't just be like, oh, there's 5 guys in my jungle. Like,
Yeah, I don't really care about that tier 2. It's got that tier 2 is actually just 1 tier 2 mob and 2 tier 1s. Like, why you take it. But in that case, it's like, damn, that's actually kind of a big deal that they took that off us, and we need to contest that type of stuff. Especially if they're pushed up towards your base and you've got to contest your tier 3s, dude. Like, damn.
I think any of that kind of stuff is what would make Deadlock more interesting in those elements as well, where it feels like you say, it is very player first, kind of like your choices matter, but then just adding an element of risk versus reward, because there isn't that much of it, where unless you kind of put it on yourself in terms of going for a kind of crazy play, like, am I going to steal the rejuve? Half my team's dead, but I'm on the Ivy. If I pull this off, could be unreal. Those are the only times. But again, that's just your internal decision making of, I think I could do it, I'm going to go for it. If it pays off, great. If it doesn't,
rather than working with the team.
Yeah,
100%. I think there's just weird issues right now. I'll go back to your haze moment, because
haze moment.
Me and you, viewer, I can tell that you're also upset about this, where you get those games where you got a Wraith or a 7 or a haze, and they take all of your jungle. They take every single lane. It's like, but then they do nothing. And it's like, well, you've completely gibbed the rest of the team. It's over for them. It's over. They're not getting any more souls, and there's not much they could do other than taking the urn. And if you don't participate, well, we're also donezo, because like all the souls are on you. Now you have to have a massive impact. And I think that is the struggle when you don't have those events, and you don't have those clear moments, is that one person can just get it in the head and be like, I'm just gonna be really selfish.
I'm the
just
hyper carry.
Not help the team. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So frustrating. Hyper carries do exist in this game, but they absolutely need to use those moments. Like I think that's what I mean. At 7 minutes. That's when your 12k 7 should come along and help.
Yeah. That's what I mean. It makes sense. And there, like you say, there is characters that are defined as that and do work in that way. Like 7 is a good example where he fits the role, can be incredibly powerful, especially if you are able to play it. Like if you've got like 6 stack of Deadlock, you can enable your 7 so much more. But then obviously it's enabling, right? Where like you're setting each other up, you can cycle the camps, you can funnel souls into that one guy, but to a limit. Where it's like diminishing returns. If he's like 10k ahead than anyone else, sure, maybe he can be beneficial in a fight. Suddenly, if that's 25k, no one else has had anything to eat the entire game. What's the point?
Hungry. Help.
Yeah, like, because then you're so far behind. Like everyone else is just crumbling over. You're relying on him. Where it's like, do a defensive base ult. Say the line, defensive 7 ult. Like,
so annoying. And it's tough. It is tough because I think these things are not easy to learn. And I think that there are definitely people online who are doing their best to teach them, but it's difficult because I think a lot of the strats are just kept to the pro scene at the moment, and not a lot of people are willing to expose those strats either, which is why you see silly things like 12 health novas in one DFN match, which was pretty nuts. They did fix a lot of other stuff. There's some interesting things here in the patch as well that you might not have known about. For instance, Fleetfoot cooldown increase from 10 to 16 seconds is a really big deal. If you didn't know about it, people were spamming Fleetfoot for Spell Slinger, because Fleetfoot with a tiny bit of CD, if you spammed it, it would be off cooldown every 9 seconds, and Spell Slinger was every 10 seconds. You needed to hit something or you lost the stack. So people were having like 6 stack McGinnises the entire game with like a 0.5 second reload speed. So I'm glad that they changed that, because that was a broken combo. I actually do like what they did with Fleetfoot. I think the actual item itself just felt kind of poo. It needed some additional stats on it. The fact that it felt good only because it was enabling another item was not cool. So 125 health, 10% bullet resist, and 40% slow resistance when active. Yeah. Wonderful. Love it.
No, there you go. That's good. And that's actually useful because it's more beneficial in the use cases where you're meant to use it as well. Because it's like a warden item for ult, pop Fleetfoot. Suddenly as well, that's then really more useful, where it's like, oh, okay, I was going to buy it before, but I'm definitely going to buy it now because it actually helps me out in the use case. Yeah, I think there's a lot of changes like that where you can see good work ethic in terms of how they're trying to balance stuff. We had that period where it did feel like it was just value change, but it was never really solving the issue of why. And then we'd get locked into this meta of cycle in the next best. Whereas these changes I actually like all of the updates that we had for gun items in this, where it's like on bullet proc effects, kind of solved it. Obviously, we've complained about this before. I was saying center bullet for shotguns. That should be for confirming souls. That should be for effects. The fact that they've now gone down that route and made it so shotguns actually only proc like Mystic Shot, Headshot Booster, I think even Resto Shot now as well. Like that's generally a way better change. Wording on it's a bit weird, where I think teaching that to players is going to be kind of awkward because it's like Calico, it's the bottom middle bullet. that's the one that procs it, because obviously she doesn't have a center bullet.
No.
But I think in that case, again, dude, it's still like I advocate for that idea of shotgun heroes in general in this game with how things work. We're so close to the souls being absolutely unreal. You get the ammo back now. Just make it so a buckshot does nothing. Make it so you have to aim with that gun in lane, because you're being rewarded with the ammo back. You can know when you fire at souls, there's one dedicated center bullet that has to hit. You put that on every hero. It does no damage when fighting other heroes, just for souls. Suddenly, all of it clicks where they'd know as well, oh, that blue bullet in the middle, although that's not dealing damage, I have to hit that one for my on-proc effects, rather than it being kind of arbitrary of like, if no one told you this, you might never know. Like, if you weren't playing right now and didn't read these patch notes, a year down the line, you might not know why. Just going, why is my calico shot not proccing? Like, why is headshot booster not going off?
I definitely hit headshot. I saw the headshot marker, but you get no headshot booster. It definitely does need some kind of feedback in there in terms of maybe just the traces. Though the traces are kind of bulk right now, let's be honest. I'm seeing 7 traces across the map. So I think maybe traces will be...
Dude, I get it with Mirage. It freaks me out. Any Mirage game, I think it's different from player to player what hero is kind of bugged, because I get it with Mirage.
Oh, really?
Any Mirage in my game, I hear it all across the map and I see it. Like, it looks like half the time it looks like they're shooting out of my shop. So I'll be in lane and I'm like, where is he? And he's just miles away.
Pulling a matrix on me right now. Yeah, it's not good. It's not good. I've had it with... The most frustrating one I've had so far is Wraith with Mercurial Magnum. So all the bullets are coming across my screen, and also vibrant pink. Yeah, it's pretty horrible in the eyes. But yeah, so I think tracers could definitely be something that they look at once they've looked at them again. Fix them.
Yeah, I imagine again that's the thing with this, because it's hard, because obviously a lot of this stuff is probably, if the VFX are changing and they've got ideas for like the finished tracers or the finished kind of like on-shot effects, because obviously you can see some are far more done than others, right? Like Shiv's alt fire, for example, telegraphs exactly what's happening. I see the spray of bullets. I think his is actually a prime example of how some of these should be done. Like the physical recoil on the shot, it's a movement ability. Just as a side topic, I think in general, like the fact Deadlock brought back alt fires for most characters, as a concept, like you don't see it in video games that often anymore, but it used to be really popular. And I think having alt fires that are different like that and could be used in certain ways is the way to do it. I think his is a great balancing point of it's a movement ability, but it's also a mass spread shot. You want to use that in lane? You want to use that for damage? Go nuts.
Yeah, there's definitely stuff in that. I mean, even the Gooman's alt fire is pretty fun. Very slow firing. If you hit it dead on, it does a lot of damage, and it's fun to hit the splashes with. Yamato's needs looking at again. I think Yamato's a bit crazy, like where they're using the alt fire more than anything. But that might just be an identity choice for the hero, and that's okay as well. But there's a ton of stuff. But I do think that the main thing that I'm looking at here from a lot of these changes is that it does feel like Valve is really taking a rapt attention to a lot of YouTube videos have been thrown out, just in general, the Deadlock scene, because a lot of these were broken from a lot of the esports tournaments that are coming through. I mean, Healing Nova being immediately switched to a tier 3 item. You know, I'm not saying anything, but it feels like, you know, a certain team did that and it got changed. So I'm glad for it. As well as Cultist Sacrifice, that was been something that everyone was building online, something that was highly touted. I'm glad that got changed as well, because it was just the first item that practically everyone built. Midas is meant to be, Cultist Sacrifice is meant to be risk versus reward, right? You take an early hit so that you make more money later. That's the big thing. But it just wasn't the case. It was like, I'm making lots of money and many stats right now.
Right, I think that's the good thing overall, where it does feel that way, where they clearly have an idea now of like, whose opinion do we look at? Where are the broken builds instantly going to come from? Because there's some people that pride themselves. The minute you get a new item, they'll find that broken build. And they've got their finger on the pulse now of like, they know where to look. Because not everyone obviously puts everything on the forums. Hell, I think most people don't even remember the forums exist for that reason anymore. It's like straight to the Reddit, on YouTube, on you know, tournaments. But they're noticing where things are broken. Like they're finding it and they're fixing it. And the balance changes they make are good. With that though, I will say, right, I think healing in Deadlock in general does still need another rummage through. I think it's by far the only MOBA with this much healing
you're
I have
finally
ever
having
seen.
this moment, dude. It's
Mate,
crazy.
it's more just it's gross in terms of like
It
the amount of
is,
sustain you
right?
have.
It
But
is.
it was an issue before, but it was key items. Whereas now it's like everything just gives you so much health or sustain. You've got health regen out the wazoo, and you can do nothing about it. Where I was saying to you, I thought the idea of certain items having a per limit, one per team limit, could be a way to do it. But then again, you run into the issue of like, why can I only buy one?
It's player
why
agency.
does my Dynamo
it's so
have
hard.
it?
Yeah.
Yeah, which
Again,
you're never going to win people over with that. But there's
won't.
got to be something more drastic, I think, because the
I
healing's just too much, bro.
Dude, you're on the right track though, because it needs to be limited somehow. But it's just how do you do it? Because I think that the one thing that upsets me the most right now, in terms of just team fights and how people play those long extended moments where it's just 6 dudes looking at 6 dudes in mid lane, and that's all that's happening. How do you fix that? Because a lot of other MOBAs have those moments where you're poking down the enemy team. There is so much self-sustain that poke's really hard to do unless it happens within a time frame of 10 seconds where you get that big burst of damage and then you immediately go in. You can't have cases of 45 seconds where we're poking them down. Okay, they're weak now. Now we can engage, because there is just so many ways to heal up in this game now, and it's pretty insane.
Dude, the thing is, I'm surprised. I know we've spoken about it before. I don't know if we've mentioned it on the podcast, but like the Dota balancing system of like you just have set charges for healing abilities, healing items. You go back to Fountain, it restocks. I do actually think if you're not going to go down the route of locking it down, at least doing it that way, there'd be more thought process of like, right, well, I've only got the 3 charges of Healing Nova. If I have one of them left, I've got to make sure I use it at the right time rather than just spamming it out every time it's off CD.
I think that, even for Healing Nova, I think 2 charges would be reasonable at a much higher healing rate than it currently has. And I think you can balance it so much easier if you had charges for these items, because you can make them meaningful, you can make them strong, or it's a case of Healing Over now heals for 800 health for everyone on the team and removes 1 debuff. And it's like, fantastic, that sounds really broken. Okay, but you can only use that twice before you have to leave. Those are fun. I mean, I was probably very overpowered anyway, but that's much easier to balance, where it's a case of that character can no longer find infinite value out of a 2-minute fight on this singular item. So yeah, I think that these changes need to come through.
Thing with that as well is I think that would bring back some of what I think people don't articulate, but what they think they miss about 4 lanes, which was more that you would have staggered fights where even if it's a team fight, it would be like 2 guys here, 3 guys here, all scrapping in kind of isolated but grouped fights, and then you'd move in. If you win this fight, your team would join the other fight. Whereas now it does feel like it's like death ball, everyone together, all the passives, all the healing, and you have to group, and you're inting if you're not. If you're having like an isolated fight on the outside with 2 guys, why are you not in the actual main fight? Like, you know what I mean?
Get in the melee, dude. Come on.
But I think bringing that back would be good. It was interesting as well, because like obviously when I was in Finland, I met a guy who came over, and it was funny because he instantly just said Dead Air, Jacky from Dead Air, and I was like, yeah, that is me. Yeah,
that's me.
And he was talking to me about it. He was like, dude, I love Deadlock. He was a Turkish guy who's like living in Finland. He was helping out at the event, basically. But you could see, like, he's been playing for a long time, like, loved the game. And he was saying to me where he was just like, I kind of miss the idea of it was really cool where fights were kind of together but isolated. And he was like, from an esports side, it was sick that you could like jump around from different perspectives of one fight. Whereas he was saying, I used to watch a lot of Dota, but in Dota, it just felt like ball of abilities. But he was saying in Deadlock, it was like, whoa, I can see these 2 guys having like an aerial fight. The haze is all about movement. She's fighting a Wraith that's like bobbing and weaving. You got a Dynamo over here fighting with the rest of the team. And I was like, yeah, dude, it was sick. Like that is an element of the game actually that I think we need to encourage more of, where it's like those kind of fights where it's a little bit more broken up. There was more going on, more depth to it, rather than just everyone bundling, standing the healing over quickly.
Yeah, and it's because like so many of these abilities just have so low cooldowns and just can be used repeatedly again and again and again. And I don't want them to ever add it. I don't want to ever add it. But there's the case of that this game does not have the concept of mana. Right, there is no mana in this game where abilities can just be used constantly over and over and over and over again, which is why you get these extended fights, which is why you get these extended moments of just healing. Because, you know, in a different universe where we had mana, you would not have a Lash who was able to flog consistently all the time, because that type of ability would have a high mana cost because it's got healing attached to it and damage, and it's not something you can just spam in lane. Unfortunately, we don't have that. So Valve has this interesting like challenge to balance that type of thing. I think just add charges, man. Add charges.
Charges would be one way of doing it, because then you can make it obvious to a player, you have these charges on this one ability. If it's like really overpowered, as a way to balance it, you have to go back to base, which naturally you do quite a lot anyway if you're rotating to defend objectives. So it wouldn't be that abstract. But yeah, I think there's something in there of rebalancing key items and key abilities around that, because adding mana would suck. Like, that would be lame. I think it's cool the way that they've done it right now. But like you say, it's a far harder task where suddenly you've got to balance every hero in the game around CD. It's just cooldown. That's the only thing you've got to worry about. Other avenue you have with that is just have a base global cooldown for all ultimates, and none of them ever go below that. And then we're just having more that are slightly longer, but we have a baseline. Because we did that once before, where I think, you know, you remember back at old school, Mo and Krill's ult was up like that, and then they kind of bumped that a lot. They bumped Kelvin a lot. They tried to raise the floor of like, okay, most ultimates going up by like 20 seconds. We'll try and make this a little bit less. But now I think the amount of cooldown reduction you have anyway, especially with the new items, that you can stack cooldown reduction. You're farming Sinner Sacrifices. Mate, I've been playing like Flask build Warden. It's never on cooldown. If you're not pressing 1, you're trolling. Like, you just got to be launching that bad boy every like 0.5 seconds, because you, by the end of the game, that's what it is. It's so short. Even his ult, what's that at most? If you're building him right late game, you're looking at like just about a minute.
It's 66 seconds. That's roughly 66 seconds, which is what it goes down to, which is a
I think even with like my Flask build, bro, I'm getting that down to like 58 seconds on an ult, with the way I'm building it. And it's just like 58 seconds. I can throw that out multiple times a fight. I mean, I do throw that out multiple times a fight.
It's funny because it's like, it's 66 seconds with all your cooldown items, but then people don't consider the fact that by just farming the Sinner Sacrifices, you are getting
it compounds massively.
Of cooldown reduction, or just off the urns, the golden statues. The golden statues as well as Sinner Sacrifice. It's big. And so that you are getting sub-minute Wardnals, which is very, very crazy. Which they have tried to.
Well, yeah, kind of. I don't mind this change. I saw some people annoyed about it. Initially, I was like knee-jerk, okay. But I do think it is better, because it's kind of BM, bro, that like I could throw out a Warden ult with no disregard for like, am I going to get stunned? Is it going to get cancelled? If it does get cancelled, 20 seconds from now, if I'm still alive, I'm going to cast it anyway. Whereas 30 seconds, at least that's half a minute. It's half the cooldown,
might be the fight. Yeah.
Half is okay. I think half a cooldown for an interrupt to be better. But then again, the problem I have with that is you've got so many heroes that are inconsistent, where you see so many other heroes either get it back pretty much refreshed instantly on cancel.
None. Yeah,
or
none
nothing
at all. Yeah.
And it's like, where's the balance here? Of like, if I'm getting mine back at half the CD for an interrupt, so should Infernus, so should everyone else. Like, why is it so sort of black and white of like who has what?
Yeah. It's a bit of a grey area for a lot of characters in that instance. I just don't know. I don't really know the thought process. Again, I think that this is my favorite thing about a lot of the changes here, is that when I look through all these changes, and I hope it's the same for you guys at home, where it's the case of when we look through them, every single change you can see and you're like, that makes sense, and I know why they've done that, and that tracks. Which is why I firmly believe I think the game's in a very, very good spot where they could just start churning out more heroes, churning out more of the art pass of the map, potentially look at jungle in the future, and the game comes out like late this year potentially, because July beta. It does feel like they're really cracking down on no longer. Why has Resto shot been reduced by 1% weapon damage? Question mark. That we don't really have those patches anymore. It's like, oh, that makes sense. I like that. Infernus is a bit of a menace at the moment. Let's change the build up rate. a little bit on his
Well, that was a
afterburn,
buff.
stuff like that.
That
Yeah.
was a buff. They made it so it increases by 10% on headshots, which I was saying that actually is good. Here's the other thing, bro, that actually brings in a good point, right? You make it so his afterburn build-up rate is 10% more on headshot. Inherently, you encourage players to go for headshots because if I shoot them in head, I'm getting my dot out quicker, which should be the case. This is what I was saying before. I think there is a bit of Valve forgetting they've made a shooter. We should be rewarded for actual aim. I think
Haze is a
headshots.
cool one. Haze is a cool one on fixation.
But even there, though, where it's like, there should be a more global sort of balance around all abilities or just damage output in general, rewarding if you hit them in the head. That's a multiplier. Because there's some things that don't do that, where it's like if it's in the leg, in the chest, or the head, it's same damage output.
Yeah, I think there is definitely something to be thrown in there. Again, I think I can't remember if I talked about it last time. I just want more depth on these abilities, man. I mean, like you say, headshots is cool for anything that's procced off the gun, right? That should always be the case. It should maybe do something a little bit different, but for other abilities like splatter, maybe you get more damage if you hit the third bounce on a hero. Like if that's the soul bounce, it does more damage. Like that's the kind of thing that I'd like to see, is just additional stuff where you could then even balance the characters where some of these abilities aren't so strong because they need to be used in certain ways so they do something. Perhaps lash flog, you need to be a certain distance off the ground to get the heal effect or something like that. I don't know. Just things like that to be added. I think that
I think that's a good idea. Like there is a lot you could do with that would add more depth. Because I think it's funny, right? Because I loaded up kind of the May 18th build of Deadlock a couple of days ago. And
for real.
Initially, the crazy drastic thing is the map is bright. It has no atmosphere. It is same but very different, right? And then it's kind of weird when you go back into normal Deadlock now and you can see tangibly like how the game's got sort of an atmosphere to it. It fits the setting. The map's changed so much, but definitely for the better, especially when you have the contrast of going back. But there were so many things in there that I was surprised about where it's like, man, I forgot. One or two things have changed on most of the heroes, but it's so slim. Like the only one that really had a drastic change out of all of the base heroes in Deadlock was Wraith. They went from making it so her cards used to orbit around her and then auto-cast to being a skill shot. And Wraith's card is actually unreal. Like card trick is one of the most fun abilities in the game.
You're not wrong. You're not wrong.
And
I hate that it became the afterthought to rapid fire. Like that's so frustrating for me,
because that's the bit of the kit that's like it feels sick when you hit it. Hitting a dope card as well, it's frustrating to play against. You're like, how on earth has he traced me? How's he got that flick off? Whereas, like you say, just rapid fire is just mouse one.
It's just so not. I mean, did you see the play with me card trick in Deadlock Fight Night? It was maybe like a month back, but basically, play with me threw a card out as someone was going up a zip line on the side lane up to like the tier 2 camp. He threw a card upwards, then TP'd, and then tracked the card coming down.
That's
and
sick.
Killer
Yeah,
did
yeah.
it. And I'm like, that's an awesome moment. That's why I want cards to be better, because there is so much skill expression for race that way. I was very sad when, cards took the back seat to aim, which I think that it's funny because we argue for aim a lot more, but I do think Ray's one of those characters where that's a fun part of her kit.
But that is aiming. That's the other thing, is that ability is inherently all aim, where it uses your tracing and also positioning, which are both pillars of like good aiming in FPS games, right? Translate there, where it's like you notice a lot of the better aimers that play Wraith, they're maximizing that damage with the cards. It's not just throw it out; you're getting them in at the right time. It's almost an execute if used in the right way. I think stuff like that in general could be attributed, but it was kind of funny to see going back and remembering. Wow, like half the heroes by far have not changed. It's just stats. Oh yeah, it was awful, bud. That was like the saddest bit about Hayes' Wraith's kit back in the day. And I remember being confused when they added the change. It was like, they've made it so that the cards trace opponents. You play with it once, and it was like, well, this is just infinitely better.
So much better.
You've actually just made it way better. Before, it was you press one, and it would sometimes hit an enemy. Most of the time, it would just hit troopers, and you had no control over it.
Funnily enough, I think it's one of the changes I think it was the change I was most excited to see in any person's kit right now in Deadlock, because it's just fun. It's fun to use. It feels skillful. I think Valve really owned it on that one. Yeah, I think that I'd like
Yeah.
card rave to be a thing again.
And
At
I think
least.
that's kind of the stepping zone of like, if they are going to reiterate that design philosophy of the way that ability works is what you should do to others, because it'd be very easily translatable, where like even for Geist, right, her kit, you gave it another pass and kind of said, right, we're not going to change it, we're just going to reward you for using it the right way, and then
Yeah.
you just get extra damage output or extra life back or whatever it is, something to make you learn
Hitting-
the character
Yeah.
better.
It's just like with Malice, you if you hit the
Yeah.
center dagger, it does more damage, or it counts
Yeah.
as 2 procs. You hit the center of the bomb, that counts as extra
Yeah, exactly.
damage. It's
Even if
stuff
you just
like that, it's
balanced
just
it that way,
easy.
where it was like the expanse of the radius towards the outer edges deals
less
less in
damage.
general.
Yeah.
So you have to make sure, like, if you know they've got high HP and you're trying to kill them with it, you got to get it spot on. It's like a nice alley up 3-pointer, rather than cast it. Just hope for the best. Like,
It's just
throw
the
that
thing.
in.
It's like I think there's a lot to be done with that, and I think overall, Deadlock is a fun game that could be enjoyed at various levels if you build it like that. Where I think that most people, if you're in a ritualist game, you're likely not hitting the center part of the Geist bomb. But if you're someone who's good at Geist, you're getting better, you're hitting those center malices, you're getting in the sweet spot of the bomb, you're going to climb. And then you're with other people who also use their skill shots really well. And then you climb a little bit more. And that's how it should be. It's that people will still enjoy the game at lower levels because they won't be taking full advantage of the entire kit. But neither will anyone else. So it's not like anyone's losing out by doing it. It just creates a bigger ceiling, which I think is good for any game. You just want to keep the floor low.
And I think that's what Deadlock does do very well, where even in the sense of like movement now, especially, like they've nailed it. I remember obviously, when we had the rework with the double wall jump, couple changes to how it actually functions in terms of momentum, knee jerk was, this feels so weird, I'm not used to it. But I'd say 99% of players now have been won over, where you do realize, no, they've actually made it vastly better. They removed the gatekeeping of needing item builds for fun movement. You put that in the players at base. And Deadlock's movement now, like, hands down, dude, the only game that even compares, and only because it's on Source Engine, is Titanfall. Like, that's the only time I've ever felt that same sort of nature of, I could load up Deadlock and just bounce around the map aimlessly and have a great time whilst, like, killing an hour or so. It's like when I used to do it, I'd come home from school and I'd boot up CS and just play B-Hot maps. It feels like that, where it's like, even if you're not doing anything, it's just fun. It scratches that like lizard brain itch of this is enjoyable. But then you attribute it into the gameplay, dude. And like especially recently, some of the jukes you can pull off with a new map where people fail to realize so many of like the map geo they put in, tiny little pixel ledges everywhere, door frames standing on top of door frames, like ricocheting off a wall into a door frame. Someone runs in the interior trying to chase you down. Had it with a Mo and Krill a couple of days ago. He like runs in the room. Double take of like, where is he? I'm on the door like this. Because most people don't look up. They never kind of pan the camera upwards. So as soon as you introduce that verticality of like sitting on ledges, you can just juke people out.
Yeah, I mean, this is the thing is I just want more of that.
Yeah.
More of that skillful side of Deadlock, and it is fun. And I think that as long as people lean into it, as long as Valve lean into it more, because it just, I think the game has a ton of potential in that side of things. And I think that we've talked a lot in these previous podcasts, in episode 23, 22, just like various changes we'd like to see. But I think it's nice to have a podcast now and again where we just kind of look at the game and we're like, it's really nice, and it feels like they're figuring stuff out now. But let's lean a little bit more into making things harder, I guess.
I think it's
I like challenge. I like challenge, dude.
It's iteration on what they've already got. I think that's the kind of way to look at it, where we've had podcasts before where it's like, this is bad, we need to get rid of this. And slowly those things have been fixed, where it's like, souls are kind of in a weird place, man. Why am I using ammo to confirm souls? That's actively going to deter players from doing it. Now it's like, if you're not denying, what's the point, bro? You got to deny. You're going to get that bullet back and make sure you at least try. And then even with other stuff where it's like you can see the logical evolution of making everything smoother, better, more fun. And I think that's kind of like the state of the game right now. Like movement, they've killed it. As long as it kind of stays how it is and the map changes around it, it's going to be unreal. Like they've actually nailed the movement system, super rewarding. The gunplay and abilities on 99% of the heroes, very fun, feels really good. Like the core DNA of Deadlock, hands down, it's the best it's ever been. Like, especially when you then jump from looking back, dude, at that May 18th build to now, in 12 months, it's a different game. It's an entirely different game.
Yeah, I think that, again, we talked about earlier where we'll see those videos coming through of the before and after. Like, it's an insane difference. I think the only thing that kind of I was like recently, maybe this needs to get changed, was mid, because I was like, right, well, mid feels very bland at the moment compared to everything else upstairs. But they've added some lighting down there, and it already looks a lot better, surprisingly. You know, add a couple of headlights.
Just a couple candles.
Yeah, it's great. I was surprised how that worked out so well. But yeah, as long as they keep doing that, I think I'd be very happy with how the game's going. But overall, you know, another strong week, I would say, for Deadlock in the books. I think Valve has done an insane job in terms of the hot fixes that have come through. I mean, these have been some fire fixes so far. I've been really, really pleased with them. I also don't want to put too much pressure on Valve right now, because I think that, you know, this is enough, guys. This is enough. You've done really well. I think time to start looking at what the next content update is. I think that you spoiled us here. But I'd still be happy, you know, if anything broken comes up, because it often does. People, like you said, people keep finding the next broken thing.
Oh, yeah. But I think it's getting better and better, which bodes well. Hell, even if you boil it down to, right, until, what was it, a couple months back, when they actually like changed the name of the EXE to Deadlock, and sort of, you know, we're getting these big major updates, there was almost a bit of me that thought, every kind of year with Valve, right, like from the outside, the way it works is they go to their Hawaii company trip, and then when they get back, they have that conversation of like, is this good enough? Do we scrap it? Do we start again? Do we move forward? And the fact that, you know, they probably come back this time, Deadlock's been in development since 2018, all these different names, themes, brands, they've got back and they've gone, no, yeah, we're really happy. We're actually super happy with what we've made, and now we're just going to iterate. And you can see that in like the design philosophy, the fact we're getting updates absolutely rapid, because it probably is refreshing as well. Like, you take the whole team away, give people time outside of the office. You come back, you're probably like, yeah, actually, I do want to get to work. Like, I thought about this. I'm working on a new hero. I'm working on this item. Everyone's just chipping in with what they want to do for the game.
It is very important to take a little break now and again. I think they've been working non-stop on it, and especially working non-stop on a game that is completely visible to the public is a little bit daunting. All right, you got to show some of your draft work, and I know from experience that's not always fun. So again, I totally respect them for doing it, and hopefully, you know, the updates keep on coming, and they're just as good as this one, because I think so far these big content drops have been very awesome. And again, it feels like they're really targeting what needs to be targeted so far. Every time I read the patch notes, I'm like, makes sense.
Oh, yeah.
Makes sense.
It's good. It is good. I think it's nice as well, where one other thing I was thinking about, how much better is the game now after a couple months of no side lane TPs?
Oh, bro.
They've actually, like, better. They've just made it so much nicer. Where I was thinking recently, like, oh, you actually do kind of gank again. The rotates don't feel as kind of lame. That was the worst timeline. I remember we were like, this just kind of sucks. Like, why don't they just get rid of them? And they did. And instantly, as soon as we fixed the items that were making it kind of bland, game's just way better for it. Like, those drastic changes that they're still running the risk of taking. Because I think, you know, what other MOBA has, like, teleporters? You don't, right?
You don't.
That's not,
no.
Yeah.
No. I think it's because the map was technically so large, but now we've had a lot of sprint updates. And again, I just don't think it was necessary, though, still. I think the whole point is that you should be in the right place at the right time. That's the whole point of a MOBA at the end of the day. Yeah. But yeah, overall, I've been pretty happy. Getting this podcast done early again.
I know.
I'm away on the weekend. We're both just away. So if there is another surprise patch that comes through, I'm sure Jacky's got you covered.
Yeah, there'll be a patch notice if something pops up. I think me and Daisy are going to be making an appearance at TwitchCon in Rotterdam as well. So I think this will go out whilst we're there. So if you're listening to the podcast and you're popping down, come and say hello. You can give me a wave. I'll say, you all right, mate? What's up, big man?
What's up? Jacky from Dead Air.
Yeah, that's me. That's me. Shout out to that guy as well. He's really lovely dude. Said he listens to the podcast. He was like, I really enjoy the podcast.
Yeah,
he said to me, are you bringing it back? And I was like, no, never missed an episode. It's there all the time. I was like, we're always every Saturday. hands down.
Most Saturdays, certainly.
Every Saturday, without fail, for a full year, Blank.
Yeah.
24 episodes.
Never missed the one. Yeah. 24 episodes, though. It's crazy. We're getting pretty far into it. I'm excited for the 50th and then the 100th, which by that point, hopefully, it is open beta by the 100th podcast. But we'll wait and see. We'll see you guys there as well. Hopefully, you stick along with us for the ride.
Yeah, we'll see you back. Another episode probably soon. We'll come back in. We'll see what they've done in another week's time. Game changes so much. But there's our thoughts on everything that's going on right now. More of a potential critique episode there. Some food for thought for Valve putting this in the office.
Going, optimistic.
What are these guys on about?
I think it was an optimistic critique, though. I think we're like, these things are good, but they could
solutions.
Be better. Yeah.
I think that's the thing, right? You've got to be able to articulate the why of, I don't like it, but here's what you could do. That's the way to do it. That's one for all of you out there. If you're giving you feedback, you're allowed to complain. It's good to complain, I think, right now especially. But give solutions as to why, what you don't like and what you want changed. Get back on the forums as well. We need more people using the forums again. Just get those posts in. They're always reading. Like, they're always dialed in for Deadlock changes right now. Yeah.
And if that doesn't work, make a really angry post on Reddit. That seems to do the trick too.
Someone will upvote it. Yeah, someone will upvote it. It's worth doing. It's worth doing. But there you go. Another episode of the Deadlock podcast, the Dead Air Deadlock podcast, either or. Weren't many pineapples being mentioned in this one, so more Deadlock than Dead Air. Yeah.
There you go.
There you go. Right then. See you later.
Take care,
Good luck on the treadmill or
whatever
going to
you're
work.
doing.
Whatever you're doing. Yeah.
Yeah, cut up some pineapples, perhaps, perchance.
Oh, maybe. Nice bit of pineapple. Enjoy that. Right. Bye-bye.